Bench Opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
Right, welcome everybody to our leftovers segment this week. You can listen to the football and rugby episodes that came out on Tuesday and yesterday, and tomorrow you'll have what a week to look forward to. Dom, it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much. I feel good to be back.
It's a nice cap you've got there.
Thank you. It's a local Berlin brand.
What do you think your over-under on cap numbers are that you own?
Oh God, it's a lot. It's like, I don't know. I think at least with golf caps as well, must be close to 50.
Yes.
50?
Yeah.
How do you choose which hat you're going to wear in the morning?
I think they sort of also go out of fashion eventually and they just end up in a box, surely.
No, like I'm pretty good at like donating them then.
Okay.
And I do have sort of there's always like 6 or 7 in rotation usually.
Yeah.
There's no real conscious decision because I generally wear black. Caps go with everything.
Yeah.
You know, so because I'm looking to go slim, and then at the top I can do my thing. You know.
You're bold.
Exactly.
Talking about the colors you wear and stuff, we were talking about golf shoes yesterday, and Klaus was saying how he's got these nice summer golf shoes that he bought himself, but they're dark green. So now you can't match that with that many other things.
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a
Black
real
pants
struggle.
would work.
Black pants, yeah. But then what do you wear as a top? Black.
Don't you have a dark green top as well?
Yeah, that would work. Or a white top would also work.
I don't have white. I wear a dark green top.
And a black top, I think you
And
have.
I've got a black top.
Because I know the one time when we played, you wore like full green, you looked camouflage. You wore green shoes, green pants, green jersey.
That was because of the jersey, because I had a jacket over the top, and so then it looked normal. But as soon as I took the jacket off, then I looked like a tit. And then as soon as I took the jersey off, then I looked all right again.
Put you in front of a green screen, would have completely disappeared, just been a floating head.
Just a couple hands.
Some F1 weekend, the past weekend. We sort of were on the back end of the Lawson news the last time. He raced for Racing Bulls this week. Tsunoda taking his seat at Red Bull. Was he happy with his performance, Tsunoda?
Was Tsunoda happy with his performance? Tsunoda was just happy to be there.
I think he was very vocal about how disappointed he was. I think he came 15th? 12th.
Yeah, he came 12th. No, he was obviously not chuffed, but to throw a guy in there a week before a race is, I mean,
he got just as many points as Liam Lawson would have got.
0.
So.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only little shining light for Tsunoda is that he finished well ahead of Lawson, because that sort of almost confirms Red Bull's decision that they're probably going to stick with now, I assume.
Yeah, no, they have to. They can't chop and change back and forth.
There's also more and more stories that came out this week that about how controversial the Liam Lawson decision was internally in Red Bull as well.
Right.
That Horner did not want him, and Horner said, "Dude, this is not our guy." But that upper structures said, "We have the academy. We have to use the academy."
What is his name? Marco.
Helmut
Marko, yeah, he's big in decision making, isn't he?
Yeah,
for Red Bull.
So apparently, like it was a decision that they knew was a bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
And that he would have preferred to. He wanted to actually get someone else. I don't remember the name. They were looking at possibly. Oh, what's this other young Italian that's in? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to remember the name now. But they explicitly
someone outside of the Red Bull structures.
Yes, they very explicitly wanted to go out and get someone else.
That's tough. I mean,
okay. I mean, to me, it would have been the natural decision to take Tsunoda because he was really racing for Red Bull.
If you know the Japanese are going to give you 10 million anyway every time he goes to Japan, then you might as well do it.
Well, I think this is probably what the key factor was of making the decision when it was made is that if you got Tsunoda in that car for the Japanese Grand Prix, that would add a lot of benefit for Red Bull. Because one could also argue on the flip side that Lawson wasn't given enough time in the Red Bull seat to really prove himself.
Well, I don't think Lawson had done anything previously to have proven himself to be able to get that spot in the first place. So
yeah, but I mean,
you can argue both ways, I guess.
If you really want to see what someone is capable of, you can't just give him 2 races with preseason, admittedly. But
sure,
I think, like Dom said, the writing was on the wall before.
Yeah, and with everyone saying how difficult the car is to ride.
Yeah,
to drive, which is like so. I think does seem a bit strange.
Lawson is a very outspoken, confident guy. He was
confident. That's the way you're going to go.
So we're gonna start with confident, and then we're gonna see whether we progress here. So
I'd go with the word delusional.
Okay.
No, let's see what you're going to say.
He was very vocal last year about his performance, about his quality, about what he's able to do. When he got into the Red Bull seat, says it's his time. Even now, when there was rumors of Tsunoda taking his seat, he was saying that he's not too worried because he constantly beats Tsunoda. How much confidence do you need as a professional athlete, and where is the fine line of it being blind arrogance?
Very difficult for us as non-athletes to be able to answer
There's
that
three
question.
very, very confident guys sitting here who are not athletes.
I could deal with a little less fucking confidence on a golf course, for example.
I think any athlete, but especially like in racing, if you're going to hurt yourself at a corner at 300 kilometers an hour, I think you need to be pretty fucking batshit crazy.
But there's
and have enough belief in yourself that you're capable of doing literally anything to get that car around the corner. And I think that's where these guys then get a little bit too confident in their own abilities, and I think you need to have a little bit of humility to be able to reflect and go, okay, I'm not where I need to be. There are improvements that need to be made. What are those improvements? And then sort of progress.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things, though, I think, when you talk like that really influence where the line is between the sort of arrogance and like confidence thing. First of all, it's delivery. Because I think there's a lot of very, very good, famous sports stars that are seen as very humble and very nice.
Yeah.
And very everything. But they sit in that locker room before a game, or they're on that tennis court, or they're at the bowler's end, ready to bowl, and they believe that they're the best in the world.
Yeah.
And they tell themselves they're the best in the world, and they act and perform as if they're the best in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing, is delivery. I think Liam Lawson can be accused of not really understanding where his standing is and how to sell it. Anyway, but also he got shafted. So like to a certain degree as well. I mean, his back was against the wall. He didn't perform well in the two races, but he had his back against the wall. And then I think you have to pick a way out of it. And then I think the second thing is performance. I think people are going to be way less calling you arrogant if you actually perform and deliver.
Absolutely.
So, and I think those are two key things. And I think with Lawson, unfortunately, with both of those things, he didn't do himself a lot of favors. He didn't perform, and he was very, very front foot about his own abilities, which those just don't match up, and people don't take to that very well.
No, they don't. If that's though what's gotten you to where you are, you can't be blamed for continuing in that measure. I think it's probably a massive learning curve that I think probably most athletes who aren't going to make it to the very top, but just under the top have to go through, is that sort of curb your enthusiasm sort of vibe of being like, okay, I can be confident. I just need to watch out who and what I say when, because it's the statements in the media. It's that sort of brashness that makes you an easy target. And if you just dial back on a few of those statements in public, you can believe in yourself, whatever you want.
Exactly,
you can be a dick.
Exactly.
You can be a dick in the paddock. Everyone can think you're an asshole. But if you just dial back the comments in the media and just sort of put on even a facade of humility, you'll find that so much more smooth sailing, because it just takes that massive target of you being arrogant off your back.
Yeah. And making a comment like, I consistently beat Tsunoda in last season, I would have to go back and look at the stats, but I'm not convinced that that's even true.
I think it was a blanket statement of like, I'm not worried about him because I'm better than him. That was his sort of what he was leaning on.
But when they were racing in the same car, he wasn't consistently beating him. So
yeah. Let's switch over to the other team that didn't win. Max Verstappen won the race.
Hats off, honestly, hats off, because I think there was a lot. There's been so much talk about McLaren almost cruising to it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It shows they're not going to go away.
No, they're not. And McLaren is actually the team I want to talk about. Lando Norris finished second. Oscar Piastri finished third. There was a point in the race, Klaus, maybe run us through the details, where Lando was in second, Piastri was in third, but Piastri had more pace.
So it was about 10 laps before the end of the race, and there was about a second and a half, 2 seconds between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. And obviously they were trying to launch an attack, trying to see if they could reel him in. And Lando said on the radio, listen guys, I'm flat out. Like this is the pace that I've got. This is the pace I can maintain. I can't go any faster than this. Piastri, on the other hand, was, trailing by a second to Lando, and he said, "Listen, guys, I feel like I have more pace in the car. Let's invert the positions. Let me have a run at him. If I've got 10 laps, maybe I can actually catch him."
Yeah.
That being said, during the race, I was like, during the highlights, watching the highlights because the race was very early in the morning. I was like, okay, invert the cars. Definitely go for it. I mean, if you think you can actually do it, go for it. Listening to all the post-match interviews, Piastri said quite openly, he's like, look, I felt like I had more pace, but I wasn't even able to overtake Lando on my own strength.
Yeah.
That comes with a whole another complication that I explained just now, but he says in that moment he felt very confident. The team didn't feel confident that he could actually pick up the pace enough to catch him, and so that's why they left the positions as is.
I think it comes into sectors as well. I think Lando Norris was quicker than Piastri in the first sector, whereas Piastri was quick in the final sector, and that final sector leads you to the straight where obviously DRS comes into play, and it's a really long straight at Skukuza.
Suzuka.
Skukuza.
There's no lines. There's no lines on the end of turn one.
And I think that was the issue, is that he'd get close to Lando Norris, come onto the straight, and then after that straight, Lando would pull away again. So then you get into that problem. Do you really want two teammates really fighting each other? Like, do you really want to fight each other, or would you rather prefer? I think it was it Hamilton and Bottas who did it a few years ago, where they inverted, and Hamilton had a go, tried to overtake, and when it didn't work out, he let Bottas overtake again in the final corner, so he got his second place back. Lewis finished third. I think if you're a racing purist, it's not great to see regardless. You don't want anyone to give any position to anyone. Anyone should race flat out. But if you're a team...
How wild would that be, actually? Imagine a Formula One with each team only has one car, one driver.
Yeah.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
That would be wild, because that would just be like... I think
all out.
Yeah, that would be crazy. You'd probably get a little bit like NASCAR. They'd like beat each other up in the pits and shit.
Yes.
Klaus, are McLaren heading for like if they continue this way? I mean, Piastri obviously clearly wasn't that upset after the race. He seems to be...
It's a very pragmatic way of looking at it, to be like, couldn't even catch Lando, so how was I going to catch the other guy? I think that's a good way to kind of...
But would they be heading for a bit of a small implosion had Piastri had the pace? Because they've got two very good drivers and two drivers that can seemingly compete. And a team will eventually have to make a decision. And if by the looks of it from this weekend, they're putting their money on Lando Norris.
I think Lando Norris is always going to be the number one choice because of the fact that he's just been with the team for so much longer, and generally speaking, he is the more successful driver. Can that change? Sure, it can change, but I don't think Piastri has shown enough to be dominating races. To show that he does have the capability of being their first choice driver.
He came from a victory the week before. I just think that what you want to avoid is a Hamilton-Rosberg situation. I think at the end of Verstappen-Ricciardo, there was also sort of two drivers on eye level. You don't want it to become a distraction, a sideshow that sort of keeps one of your drivers from winning the title. And I feel that Piastri is good enough to challenge Lando consistently, and McLaren needs to very clearly decide what their strategy is. Is it the fastest driver on the day gets the chance, or is it do everything so that Lando wins the Drivers' Championship?
I think first and foremost, they want to get the Constructors' Championship. That's number one thing, get that back-to-back, because that comes with financial gains as well. Yeah. The Drivers' Championship, obviously you want to get the doubleheader, right? You want to get both. So you don't want to have your two top drivers sharing the points at the top and essentially having Max come second the whole time and then eventually win it on a point system. I think for to maintain a healthy relationship between your drivers and the team, I think you have to let the fastest person on the day win. I think if you start, hamstringing one of them, then you're going to cause all sorts of cuck. and then eventually one of the drivers is going to want to leave the team, or
sure.
not be able to play a team player role, in the sense of like, if you're in second, pits at a certain time, block other drivers, all the strategic things that play a role in a team dynamic, that goes right out the window if somebody's not playing ball.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you need to keep that relationship healthy between the drivers and the team.
Yeah, and I think it probably will come down to character of the two drivers, egos, and like you said, the ability to take maybe a back seat, where I think they're very, very well set up with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri looking in from the outside, who seem like they can fill those roles. Anything more on Formula One?
I know that Suzuka is a very...
Suzuka.
I know that Suzuki. I know that Suzuka is a nice golf course in the Kruger Park, but Suzuka, on the other hand, now it's a very iconic racetrack, but to me, it's just as boring as Monaco.
Oh, really?
They've put a new surface on it.
As someone who's raced it multiple times before, I can tell you it's very tight
on PlayStation.
Yeah.
It is very tight, and this is exactly the issue. It's very tight. It's got a new surface, so you don't have much tire degradation.
Yeah.
And so you've got all these cars doing a one-stop strategy, meaning there's not much leeway in terms of fuck ups in the pit lane or like weird strategies. Do you stay out longer? Do you come in sooner?
Yeah.
All that different stuff. So you have a race that is almost to the T decided on Saturday's qualifying.
Yeah.
If you get the fastest lap there, you are essentially going to win. I don't think there were many changes in positions during the race. So everybody kind of finished off where they started. Oh. And, you watch the post-match interviews and everybody, I think except for one guy, everybody was like, yeah, it was a pretty bang average, boring race.
Yeah, I mean...
And that's not exciting for the drivers and it's not exciting for the fans. So is it something where Pirelli needs to step in and say like, okay, cool, we're going to go onto the softer compounds so that we do have tire degradation? Or is it something where you say like, okay, Suzuka is maybe...
I don't know how long their contract still is.
Not a track F1. For the future.
And I don't know how much the Japanese buy-in into F1 will determine whether it continues or doesn't continue, because if you've got a massive fan base in Japan, then the race will continue to be there.
On the short subject of fans, I watched a reel of a guy that was at the race in F1, and he was walking through sort of the fan zone and stuff, and he was mentioning some of the prices of like the team gear. How much do you think it costs to get like an Aston Martin cap or a they were all very similarly priced. There was like $2 or $3 between them. But just like a baseball cap for like Red Bull Racing or like
$70?
A little bit lower, $60 for a cap.
Wow, that's expensive.
Crazy. And then he was saying they had polos. This was even wilder to me. They have polos, like team polos, $117.
I remember looking into some F1 gear for a mate of ours, Cameron, once for his birthday, and it immediately closed the website again because it's just so overpriced.
So a lot of it's so hideously ugly.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new Ferrari? Have you seen? They have this thing. Ferrari have this. They've launched this new fan gear thing.
Yeah.
And the whole concept is that it looks like champagne has been like poured onto it, like splashed onto it. And champagne foam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, so it looks like.
So like the guys, there's the image of the guy like in like short red pants, and like the champagne is like all over the front of his like pants.
Oh my word!
Someone fucked up. Someone totally fucked up.
It was cool. It was a cool idea.
Yeah, it was good. Good in the PowerPoint presentation.
Oh my word!
Let's switch over to golf. There was Texas
Valero Open,
won by arguably one of the most beige golfers currently on the PGA Tour,
Mr. Harmon,
Brian Harmon. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about Live Golf organizing the duels. They called it. They teamed up some golfers from Live with some of the biggest and best. I think when I also said that some of the best YouTube golfers currently out there. You had Rick Shields, Fat Perez, the Bryan Bros, Grant Horvat.
Those guys are good, eh?
And who am I missing? Luke Kwan.
Yeah.
Did any of you watch that video?
No.
No, not
Okay,
yet.
so I watched a little bit of it. I didn't think it was great. It was well edited. I expected a lot more of this. When they announced this, I was like, wow, this is a big step for Liv to get YouTube golfers involved, because YouTube golf, in my opinion, is currently really surfing a wave of popularity. It's massive. Those videos are getting millions and millions of views. And it's sort of moving the needle a little bit in golf, and sort of especially getting a much younger crowd interested in the game. So for Liv to put a format like that out there, really sort of, I don't know, sort of first man in space sort of scenario of changing the formats a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
I'd be really interested to know why you thought it wasn't executed well.
It's just from a way that it was filmed, edited, and put out. It sort of seemed like they tried to make it into a live event where it wasn't. You know, it wasn't. I don't think it was streamed live. I think it was released. I think it was released afterwards. But I'll put my hand up if it wasn't.
Was it more in the style of like a live event, or was it more in the style of YouTube golf?
No, it was more of the style of a professional golf event. And I think that's not the way to do it when you've got YouTubers involved. I think they tried to get...
and also very good YouTubers. So
very good YouTubers.
Well, and that's the thing.
You know?
So it's like you're essentially watching a guy who could play pro golf but is a YouTuber against a guy that plays professional golf.
And I'll be honest, some of them, in my opinion, aren't the most characteristic guys. Like, I don't think the Bryan bros are so great in front of the camera. They're just really good golfers. I think Luke Kwan is as interesting as the color
rice
of his
pudding.
wall.
Sorry, that was a bad... Why did I say rice pudding? Anyway,
it's a good thing you repeated it for the ones that didn't hear you the first time.
Sorry about that. He's boring. Yes.
Spaghetti pudding.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. I think there's a different way of organizing a scramble like that. They split up the groups. So they were playing behind each other, and I don't understand the point of that.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a massive group, have them play the same hole at the same time, just so that you get one sort of thing to focus on.
Couple things. First thing, I feel like Rick Shields is just checked out.
No,
honestly, all of his stuff, even the way he looks on the course, I'm like, dude, it looks like he was like, give me the money, cool, I'll do what you tell me to do. Second thing that came out this week, and it hasn't gained as much pace as I thought it would, but it came out through a fellow YouTuber, a guy called Mr. Short Game, who's quite reputable.
Yeah,
is that Bryson DeChambeau does not own his own YouTube channel, and the reason he doesn't is because he started the YouTube channel after he joined Liv, and apparently the Liv contracts are closer to resembling NIL contracts, so name, image, and likeness contract, than they are just like playing contracts. And there is a clause in his contract that he apparently was not even aware of, really. Like that any YouTube channel or content or whatever that bears the name Bryson DeChambeau of him and is golf related automatically is part of this contract.
Oh
wow!
So very interesting, and that's also another interesting thing to see the way the whole Liv tour is kind of built commercially. But I'm interested to see how that rears its head, because I know he's got a contract until the end of next year, so 2026. But if he can't get his YouTube channel out of that or whatever, it'll on the one hand, obviously, it probably gives him big negotiation power, because he said,
"Look at all this power I bring."
But that's an interesting angle as well, and this explains why I guess they're doing stuff like this, because I think they've tried everything. They've tried everything to kind of gain legitimacy and fan base amongst people, and then it comes back to what you said, is like, I think if you want to get the average Joe or an amateur golfer on board, don't get the best. Like, I look at someone like Bob Does Sports, maybe they're a bit too crass, but I look at someone like Bob Does Sports as the kind of character that I would it would be funny to see him come into the Liv tour, and not just another dude who plays golf just as well as.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I don't relate to Grant Horvath in the slightest, because he's just so good.
Yeah, I think he's still got a little bit of character, and he's got an approachability to him that makes him, I think, a little bit more palatable.
You're not going to see that if you're just watching it as a live sport event.
Not when it's made like that. I want to ask both of you who you think, because obviously grow the game is something that's been thrown around in especially golf over the last 2 years, ever since that live thing came up, more than you can imagine. Who currently, if you're taking the PGA Tour, the TGL, YouTube Golf, and Live, who's doing the most to grow the game to move the needle?
Grant.
Sorry? YouTube Golf.
Sorry, not Grant. Garrett. Oh, YouTube Golf.
Yes.
And from that, I'd say Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett Clark.
So you think that that's getting the most people into golf, most youngsters?
What he's done with his private channel and what he's done with Good and sort of putting all of those guys together and getting them all motivated into doing YouTube and then sort of using their networks to grow it on that side as well. I think hands down, he's probably done the most.
Okay, so you think YouTube
in recent
Golf
times.
with Garrett Clark being the
Pioneer of it.
well,
not the pioneer.
Rick Shields is the pioneer of YouTube Golf. Dom?
I think for me it would be a crossover, and it would be someone like Bryson.
Yeah.
Because I think he does a lot of work in, because golf's fight constantly is the gap between the amateur game and the professional game. And that's why I find something like, we don't have to get into today, but that's why I find something like the golf ball rollback so sad.
Yeah.
Is that gap between the pros and the amateurs then gets widened again, not in terms of the ability. They're bringing pro golfers closer to us, but I want to play the same ball as that guy's playing. Anyway, I don't want to get into that too much, but I think Bryson DeChambeau does the job of closing the gap between pros and amateurs, and that it will excite people and get people to pick up the game.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the week before the Masters, they have a massive junior amateur competition at Augusta.
Yeah.
And yesterday there was some junior competition called putt chip and drive putt and chip, it's called.
Yeah.
And these 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and the amount of 8-year-old kids that are putting the way Bryson does with his, because they're so short.
Yeah.
Holding the putter like Bryson does. There were even 3 or 4 kids that, like some of the best kids at that tournament, doing something akin to a Scheffler shuffle as well.
Yeah.
Which is
I saw that,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think Scotty does his thing, and hats off to him.
Yeah.
But I think Bryson is streaks ahead there.
Yeah. It's probably difficult to put a lot of pressure on professional golfers to do what Bryson does, just because a lot of them don't have the character that he does, and they don't have the personality to also appeal to people outside of their golf game. You know, even some of the guys yesterday in that duel thing, like someone like a Cam Smith, you would think he'd be a really good laid back guy to have on camera, but he just doesn't say anything. He can't get up and like banter and get involved in stuff, whereas someone like Phil Mickelson on the other hand is perfect with that, because he constantly likes to chirp, he constantly likes to be involved.
Gary Player.
Yeah.
Need to get Gary a YouTube channel.
Definitely not.
Gary probably has his own YouTube channel.
But yeah, I agree, and I think I've seen it in the past where YouTubers burn themselves by. I remember a video that I was really excited about was an Adam Scott, Rick Shields video.
Yeah.
And it was so fucking boring, because Adam Scott is boring. He's just boring. And it's fine, because he's not...
That's not what he's supposed. Yeah. That's not what he's paid to do.
On the other hand, he had Ian Poulter on.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Rick Shields had also Justin Rose, like him or loathe him. I love him. I love Justin Rose.
Yeah.
Brilliant. He was brilliant. He spoke the whole way through, spoke you through his game, you know. And then on the other hand, a video that I thought would have been good, Sergio Garcia and Rick Shields, again, boring.
Yeah.
So
even though with Tommy was quite interesting.
Yeah. I find Tommy quite vanilla, but I know you like him, so he's also like rice pudding.
Yeah.
See, it's got nothing to do with where you're from. But yeah, I think
Luke Kwan is from Hawaii.
Yeah. No, I mean he's definitely got Asian heritage, Klaus.
This has now gone,
good lord,
all the way downhill.
But I think I think that is. But it's the way the game's changing. We've spoken about it. But it definitely is growing. Golf is definitely growing.
It is growing, and I think things like YouTube Golf, you could probably argue a little bit TGL, maybe opening it to a new market, whereas you'll have your conservative classic people who like the PGA Tour, who don't need anything more to happen. They'll be the guys who shout at you on a Sunday on the golf course if you wearing a hoodie, which I think these days people are fine with. But
yeah, one point to TGL, actually, there's the first bids and rumors and bids coming in for further franchises.
Yeah,
so that shows that it's working. Because
it's working.
Yeah.
Probably, I think I saw someone say that the obvious next step, which would I think be super difficult to convert, but which would make it big, would be to make it a road show,
Has to
which I
travel.
know, I know we've discussed on here as well.
I think it eventually will. I just think it's
It's just the logistics behind it. How do you get that big screen to different places?
And
It's more the green. The screen, I think, is the easiest one.
Yeah. Right. I think that's it from a leftovers perspective. Masters Week. Big
Maybe
week.
quick predictions, because I think it's really important who we think is going to win. Klaus?
I'd love to see Rory do it, and I think with the form that he showed, was it 2 weeks ago? I think he's. I'm hoping he's gotten himself into a mental space where he can compete. So that's who I'm going to go with.
Oh, my heart says Rory, but my head says Scotty. I've heard that Joaquin Niemann
he's playing,
is playing very well,
and he is good. He's
from
playing
Liv.
well. Yeah.
But,
hard to judge because the fields are so small and
Exactly.
it's quite, but you can only beat what's in front of you. So
I saw there was a few outside shots for Ludwig Oberg.
yeah, I've seen a few of those. If I was a betting man, I think I'd pick Morikawa. This my money's on Morikawa. He leads all the stroke averages this year on the tour. So he's playing super well, and I think that's a course that suits him because he shapes the ball both ways.
Yeah.
And then very, very interested to see what Bryson does this week, because
he's competed at the last majors as well.
exactly. But the course is just not a course that rewards long hitting.
No.
So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, very exciting. First major of the year. We'll talk about that in our leftovers week next week. Thanks for listening. Tune in to What a Week tomorrow and have a good rest of your week.